On a still September day in 2025, a team of elite future forecasters gathered, thinking it was just another training session. But these were not casual fortune tellers, not weekend mystics. These were trained remote viewers, professionals, schooled in techniques developed by the CIA and the Stanford Research Institute. They were given nothing but a set of coordinates. No clues, no context, just a blind target, and what happened next would shake everything we believe about our place in the universe. Nim's sketch made his hands tremble. He called them antennae, but what he drew looked more like antlers, sprouting from a humanoid figure. In 15 years of remote viewing, he had never seen anything like it. And when that sketch was later compared to ancient cave paintings, the similarity was chilling. Petroglyphs, thousands of years old, showing the same mysterious antlered beings. Dick's perception was stranger still. He saw tunnels of consciousness, wormholes linking space and time, tearing apart the very laws of physics we thought we knew. Edward's vision was darker. He felt attacks like something demonic, striking human chakra points, as if an intelligence was deliberately targeting the energy centers mystics say connect us to higher awareness. When the target was finally revealed, the room went silent. They had been viewing Comet Atlas, an object science dismisses as just a frozen rock drifting in from deep space. But what if science is wrong? What if they saw something our instruments cannot detect? Something governments are desperate to keep hidden from a population already on the edge of panic, and the timing is impossible to ignore. As Comet 3I Atlas approaches Earth, global tensions spike. Russia unleashes its largest drone swarm against Ukraine, exactly as Edward predicted. European hospitals are told to stockpile medical supplies for mass casualties. Major powers flex their militaries. Citizens are instructed to prepare 2-week survival kits. And the United Kingdom tests its national emergency broadcast system. For only the second time in history, it feels like the entire planet is bracing for something catastrophic. Something coming from the direction of that innocent-looking comet. And this isn't the first time remote viewers have detected non-human intelligence. For over 50 years, psychic operatives working inside the most secretive government programs have been mapping a reality that defies everything we were taught about the universe. Their findings, buried in classified files, dismissed by academia, paint a picture so terrifying it might explain why world leaders are quietly preparing for the unthinkable. This is not calm science. This is not a quiet astronomer cataloguing stars. This is an investigation into the darkest possibilities hidden in decades of psychic intelligence work. And we are about to dive into scenarios so disturbing, they might make you want to look away. Not out of boredom, but out of fear. Before we go deeper, hit that like button if you're ready to question everything you thought you knew about the cosmos. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the stories mainstream media refuses to cover. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from, what time it is right now, and whether you've ever experienced something that made you question the official story. Because what we're about to uncover suggests those moments might be connected to global events in ways no one wants to admit. But first, the question everyone asks. How do we know remote viewing actually works? How can we trust the visions of people who claim to see across the planet with nothing but their minds? The answer lies in a program so successful, it ran for over 2 decades at the highest levels of US intelligence. A program denied for years, until declassified files forced the government to admit the truth. Project Stargate began in the 1970s, when the CIA discovered the Soviet Union was pouring resources into psychic research. American intelligence could not risk falling behind if consciousness itself could be weaponized. At Stanford Research Institute, physicists Harold Puthoff and Russell Targ began testing individuals who claimed extraordinary abilities. Their protocols were strict, designed to eliminate fraud, coincidence, and imagination. The viewers were given nothing but coordinates. No maps, no clues, sometimes locked in secure rooms, cut off from every possible outside source of information. And yet, again and again, they described remote sites, hidden military bases, and real-world events thousands of miles away, with shocking accuracy. Joseph McMoneagle, known as Remote Viewer Number 1, wasn't just good at what he did. He was extraordinary. His accuracy ranged between 72% and 88% depending on the criteria used. Under strict laboratory conditions, verified by multiple scientists, he consistently described targets with a level of precision that should have been statistically impossible. The odds of achieving those results by chance were so small that even the harshest skeptics were forced to admit something real was happening. But this is where the story takes a much darker turn. The public was told that remote viewing was about locating submarines, tracking weapons programs, and monitoring enemy movements. But behind closed doors, the program was exploring something far more unsettling. These viewers weren't just spying on other nations. They were being asked to look at places and events that suggested humanity might not be alone in the universe, and whatever else was out there might not have our best interests at heart. In 1984, the first major crack appeared in the official narrative. McMoneagle was handed a sealed envelope with nothing but coordinates. He was told nothing about the target. Inside it read, Planet Mars, time of interest, approximately 1 million BC. McMoneagle wasn't told he was viewing Mars, wasn't given any context, just asked to describe what he saw. What he reported during that session stayed locked away in CIA vaults for decades until Freedom of Information Act requests forced its release. His descriptions were stunning. He saw massive pyramidal structures, far larger than anything on Earth. Architecture so advanced, it suggested technology beyond what archaeology says existed at that time. And he didn't just see structures, he saw beings. Tall, thin, humanoid figures. Intelligent, desperate, dying. He described a planet in collapse, an atmosphere turning toxic, a civilization hiding inside protective shelters, as their world slowly died around them. If McMoneagle's track record was any indication, what he saw wasn't fantasy. It meant Mars might once have hosted a civilization capable of feats beyond human achievement. And worse, it meant something. Some force or event wiped them out. Analysts quietly asked the question no one wanted to say aloud. Could the same thing happen here? McMoneagle pushed for access to NASA's photographic archives, and when he finally got them, what he found matched what he had seen. Geological formations that looked engineered, linear patterns that screamed artificial design. NASA scientists admitted in private that some images showed anomalies they couldn't easily explain. Publicly, however, the line never changed. Mars was lifeless. But what if the silence wasn't about science at all? What if it was about keeping humanity from knowing a much more terrifying truth? That whatever destroyed Mars might still be here, watching us. What if Comet Atlas wasn't just a rock, but a probe, a reconnaissance device meant to assess Earth's defenses? And Mars was only the beginning. As more documents were declassified, a disturbing pattern emerged. Remote viewers were detecting signs of non-human intelligence not just on Mars, but across multiple locations, including our own solar system. Ingo Swann, another legendary viewer whose abilities were tested under the strictest lab protocols, claimed to have perceived artificial structures on the far side of the moon. During sessions in the 1970s, he reported domes, towers, and geometric formations, things that didn't match natural lunar geology. Most chilling of all, he saw beings, entities engaged in construction, building something, expanding. And whatever they were building was clearly meant to remain hidden from Earth. At first, these claims were dismissed as fantasy, but years later, when Swann's descriptions were compared with high-resolution lunar images, the correlations were disturbing. Certain regions of the moon's far side showed angles, patterns, and straight-line features that natural processes don't usually create. NASA's public position remained that the moon is entirely natural, but leaked internal memos showed heated debate among scientists who reviewed the data. The scariest part wasn't what Swann saw, but what he felt. These weren't primitive survivors. They were advanced, methodical, and purposeful, as if following a long-term plan. The bases they were building suggested permanence, a presence designed to monitor, maybe even influence Earth. And that raises a chilling possibility. What if the moon isn't just a dead rock orbiting our planet, but a deliberate observation post, placed there by an intelligence that has been watching us for thousands of years? What if the gravitational anomalies detected by lunar missions are not natural at all, but evidence of something massive hidden beneath the surface? And it gets worse. Remote viewers didn't just detect alien structures in space. They began finding them here on Earth. Pat Price, a former police officer turned remote viewer with a remarkable record, claimed to have discovered 4 alien bases buried beneath mountain ranges across the globe. And these, he said, were not abandoned ruins. They were active. According to Price's perceptions, these bases weren't abandoned relics. They were active, alive, occupied by different groups with specialized purposes. Mount Hayes in Alaska appeared to be a command hub, packed with advanced control systems, coordinating with off-world locations in real time. On the Spain-France border at Mount Perdido, Price saw what looked like a research facility, where biological samples were studied and altered. Mount Nani in Africa functioned like a manufacturing plant, producing technology beyond human comprehension. And deep in the Australian mountains, the fourth site acted as a relay station, sending signals across interstellar space. Price's revelations didn't stay hidden for long. Skip Atwater, operations and training officer for the Stargate program, launched Project 8200, a full-scale effort to confirm Price's claims with multiple trained viewers. The results were both shocking and terrifying. Independent viewers, unaware of Price's reports, described the same facilities, the same technology, the same alien presence. One saw massive underground chambers, filled with equipment like computers, but operating on principles far beyond anything we know. Another described tall, non-human figures moving through rock-carved corridors, working with precision and purpose. Most disturbing of all, several viewers reported human beings inside these bases, collaborating with the entities. Could these sites be part of a covert network that's been running for generations? Could governments have known and cooperated all along? Could today's military preparations be less about earthly threats and more about a war that has already begun? Remote viewers may have been mapping a hidden reality that exists alongside our own. And every discovery points to one chilling conclusion. Earth has been under systematic observation and infiltration by non-human intelligences whose true motives remain a mystery. Scientists dismiss this as fantasy, but the evidence is too consistent, too detailed to ignore. And now, with Comet Atlas approaching, the revelations grow darker. What if this comet isn't just a wandering ice ball, but a piece of a plan set in motion decades ago? What if the humanoids seen by viewers aren't travelers, but pilots guiding their craft to a destination already chosen? The clock is ticking, armies are mobilizing, emergency alerts are being tested, hospitals prepare for mass casualties, leaders speak in urgent, careful tones, and yet mainstream media calls Atlas a harmless spectacle. A pretty light show for the night sky. But remote viewers see something else. They sense intention, intelligence, purpose. They describe a technology capable of bending matter and energy, and an agenda cloaked in curiosity, but driven by something darker. They say Atlas is in direct contact with hidden bases here on Earth, and across the solar system. Ancient cave paintings matching viewer sketches aren't random art. They are records, evidence that these antenna-bearing beings have visited Earth again and again, watching us grow, waiting for us to cross some invisible threshold. What if Atlas marks the final stage of a surveillance program that's been running for thousands of years? If remote viewing is right, then consciousness itself is the key. Not bound to the brain, but woven into the universe. That means the entities aboard Atlas may use consciousness as a weapon, perceiving our every move, our plans, even our thoughts, without ever being detected. They have been studying human psychology for generations, predicting every strategy before we act. And what Dick saw during his session may be the most terrifying revelation of all. These entities might not just watch us, they might shape us, implanting thoughts, guiding actions, directing armies without firing a shot. Even the demonic possessions reported by Edward may not be spiritual events, but a kind of technological hijacking, interference with the energy systems mystics call chakras, cutting humanity off from its natural intuition, leaving us blind to danger until it's too late. Perhaps Atlas isn't here to conquer Earth in a traditional sense, but to finish a transformation that's been happening for decades, shifting human consciousness, step by step until we accept a new order where Earth is no longer free, but a managed outpost in a galactic hierarchy. Those underground facilities may not be bases of war, but processing centers, where humans are reshaped, prepared for roles in a larger interstellar civilization, one that sees us not as equals, but as tools. And when you look back at history, the pattern becomes undeniable. Remote viewing was born during the Cold War, not just to spy on human enemies, but to detect something far stranger already here. Governments spent millions, not because of the Soviets, but because they suspected Earth was already under watch. When Project Stargate was officially shut down in 1995, it wasn't because it failed, It was because the truth it uncovered was too dangerous to leave in the open. The claim that remote viewing was useless was a smokescreen, meant to hide the fact that the research was simply moved deeper underground, away from public view, away from oversight, and into the shadows where it continues to this day. What if the true purpose of those government remote viewing programs was never about spying on rival nations, but about tracking extraterrestrial activity already detected by other means? What if the sudden secrecy and denial of their most successful results happened because they discovered that the alien presence was already aware of human psychic abilities and had begun taking countermeasures to hide from further detection? The evidence points to intelligences operating on several levels at once. They maintain physical bases on Earth, the Moon, even Mars, while simultaneously manipulating human consciousness through mechanisms we barely comprehend. They can shape global events without ever showing themselves, guiding humanity toward outcomes that serve their agenda, all while leaving just enough doubt for skeptics to dismiss it. And Comet Atlas? It may represent the next step in whatever long-term operation has been running for generations. The humanoids perceived by remote viewers are not scouts or first contact envoys. They are overseers, supervisors arriving to ensure that the final stage of their plan is executed exactly as intended. Their timing is chilling. Atlas arrives at a moment of peak global instability. Technology has advanced to critical thresholds. Our climate is collapsing. Human civilization itself stands on the edge. What if climate change is not entirely human-made, but partly engineered? Subtle atmospheric modifications to accelerate certain outcomes. What if the so-called technological singularity isn't an organic human achievement at all, but the activation of dormant systems quietly embedded over decades? What if the chaos we see in politics isn't natural, but the result of psychological manipulation, a calculated strategy to fracture societies and soften global resistance? Remote viewing evidence suggests we aren't waiting for a future alien invasion. We're living through the conclusion of an infiltration that began long ago. Every technological leap, every major war, every social upheaval could have been nudged toward a specific outcome, one that benefits them, not us. We may believe we're in control of our destiny, when in reality we could be playing out a script, written by an intelligence that sees human history as a managed experiment. The 4 underground bases detected by Pat Price and confirmed by Project 8200 may just be the central nodes in a vast planetary network. If extraterrestrials have operated here for centuries, they would need everything a civilization requires: manufacturing centers, communications links, transport tunnels, and coordination hubs. The 4 mountains could simply be the visible peaks of a much larger hidden system, with smaller outposts scattered across the globe. This may explain why regions near Mount Hayes, Mount Peridot, Mount Nanny, and the Australian site have so many reports of strange electromagnetic fields, UFO sightings, and electronic disruptions. Locals frequently experience missing time, bizarre psychological effects, and encounters with beings that defy all known biology. What if these aren't random hotspots of paranormal activity, but the unavoidable bleed-through from massive, concealed technology operating beneath our feet? Technology that interferes with both our electronics and our very brains. And what if the rising number of such reports around the world means the network is growing, preparing for a phase of operations that demands larger facilities and more infrastructure? Ingo Swann's accounts of lunar installations may point to the ultimate control center for all this. The Moon offers perfect line of sight to every part of Earth, the ideal platform for surveillance, coordination, and command, all while remaining far from human interference. From there, alien overseers could monitor our communications, track our weapons development, and direct the network of underground bases without ever being seen. But perhaps the most chilling possibility is that their influence doesn't stop with machinery and structures. If consciousness itself can be accessed the way remote viewers have demonstrated, then these intelligences might already be manipulating awareness on a planetary scale, rewriting human perception itself. They could implant thoughts, reshape emotions, distort perception, and steer decisions, all without ever showing themselves. This would mean the entire psychological framework of humanity might be artificially engineered. Our beliefs about reality, our emotional reactions, even our collective choices could be the result of systematic mental programming by forces whose true goals remain hidden. We think we are reacting freely to real-world events, but But we might just be acting out behavioral scripts designed to serve alien objectives. The consciousness. Wormholes detected in the Atlas remote viewing session could be the channels through which such manipulation flows. If consciousness is not limited to the brain, but is a shared field connecting all aware life, then intelligences who understand this field could access human minds at will, planting thoughts and perceptions that seem completely natural, but come from somewhere else. Consider the implications for everything we think we know about our history and society. What if humanity's great religious traditions were not born from divine inspiration, but carefully crafted control systems installed by alien overseers? What if the scientific revolution was not a spontaneous intellectual breakthrough, but a planned process to push human technology toward pre-selected outcomes? What if the political chaos and social division of today are not organic developments, but a deliberate form of psychological warfare meant to weaken humanity's ability to resist? The timeline seems to be speeding toward a climax. Military forces around the world are mobilizing, preparing for conflicts that officials cannot explain in ordinary terms. Emergency response systems are being tested as though global-scale disasters are imminent. Hospitals are preparing for casualty levels that imply expectations of catastrophic events, and all the while, Comet Atlas draws closer, carrying entities that remote viewers describe with words like possession, infiltration, and attacks on consciousness itself. What if this is not first contact at all, but the end of a long deception? What if the veil is about to drop, and covert influence is about to become overt control? The underground installations could shift from hidden bases to open command hubs. The lunar facilities could be revealed as the central headquarters of an alien colonial administration that has been quietly running Earth for decades. Humanity's capacity to resist such a revelation would be extremely limited. Our militaries are built for wars against terrestrial enemies who play by physical rules we understand. Our governments assume that decision makers are fellow humans with familiar motives. Our mental defenses evolved to handle threats from predators, diseases, and other natural hazards, not mind-bending technologies that can rewrite thought itself. We have no established methods for defending against forces that manipulate matter and energy in ways beyond our physics. We have no diplomatic systems for negotiating with minds that plan on thousand-year timelines. And we have no shields against mental techniques capable of turning human awareness into a weapon against itself. Remote viewing data suggests these techniques are already active. The fact that trained viewers can still perceive alien operations despite efforts to hide them means either they cannot fully cloak their presence, or they want to be partly seen. That possibility is chilling. They may be allowing certain humans to notice as part of a gradual conditioning process, preparing us for an event they intend us to accept. What if the global turmoil we are experiencing is not random chaos, but the final stage of that conditioning? Economic collapse, political division, climate crises, and social breakdown might all be engineered stress points, making the population so desperate for stability that it will welcome outside intervention. And when Comet Atlas arrives, these entities might present themselves not as invaders, but as rescuers. They could offer cures, technology, solutions to energy and climate disasters, answers to problems they secretly helped create. They would claim to be protectors stepping in because humanity failed to govern itself. This would be far more powerful than conquest by force. People who believe they are being saved will cooperate willingly. They will hand over power voluntarily. The alien administration would gain open control of Earth while preserving the illusion of benevolent guidance. In such a moment, the underground installations could become fully operational, staffed by alien overseers and human collaborators who present themselves as the last functioning authority capable of restoring order. The lunar command centers would be revealed as the true capital of this new planetary regime, the place where decisions about population control, resources, and human destiny are made. Remote viewers warn that their mind-influenced technologies would make this transition feel like liberation. Humanity would feel relieved, grateful, even hopeful. Resistance would dissolve, not because of military suppression, but because the very idea of resisting would be neurologically erased. This may be why governments seem to be preparing for events they refuse to name. Leaders briefed on the truth know that fighting back in any conventional sense is impossible. They are preparing not for war, but for crisis management, for controlling mass panic during an irreversible transformation. The testing of alert systems, the buildup of medical stockpiles, the deployment of troops, and the quiet preparation of populations for prolonged emergencies all fit this pattern. Officials know that something massive is coming. Their job is to keep society from collapsing. When the reality of alien administration becomes undeniable, what? If the military posturing we see between nations is not truly about fighting each other, but about putting on a show of strength, a last-ditch attempt to signal to whatever intelligence is watching that Earth still has independent will, still possesses the ability to defend itself, even if that ability is now only symbolic. Alternatively, the apparent drift toward global war might actually be the final stage of alien psychological conditioning, a strategy designed to drain human militaries of resources, waste lives, and prove that resistance is futile before openly revealing their presence. By orchestrating conflicts that consume everything yet resolve nothing, alien administrators could guarantee that humanity emerges too exhausted to mount any meaningful opposition. Remote viewing data suggests we are living through the climax of a process set in motion long before most of us were born. Every strange event, every inexplicable sighting, every so-called conspiracy theory might actually be fragments of a much larger hidden reality. The entities aboard Comet Atlas are not an isolated phenomenon, but the most recent expression of an alien presence that has been shaping human destiny for generations. What if the sudden leap in human technology over the past century was not random genius, but intentional knowledge transfer? What if our most revolutionary breakthroughs were guided revelations designed to push us toward a particular trajectory that benefits non-human agendas? Nuclear weapons, space exploration, global networks, artificial intelligence, and genetic engineering. All of these appeared in an extremely compressed historical window. The transformation has been so fast that human society has had no time to psychologically adapt. We have acquired godlike tools while keeping tribal minds, creating a volatile and dangerous combination. Perhaps this imbalance is deliberate. Alien overseers may have accelerated our technological progress while suppressing spiritual and emotional maturity, leaving a species capable of global destruction, but incapable of global responsibility. This would provide the perfect justification for direct intervention. The crisis we face today may not be accidental, but the intended result of this imbalance. Human civilization has become powerful enough to destabilize the planet, yet too divided to cooperate on solutions. This could be the moment alien forces have been waiting for, the signal that humanity is ready for external management. The underground facilities identified by remote viewers may have been quietly monitoring us for decades, sending regular reports to off-world administrators about our readiness. The consciousness assaults detected during the Atlas session might be the last step, a final sweep to ensure that no major resistance forms. Techniques such as chakra interference, wormhole disruption, and thought implantation may be used to sever humanity from deeper intuitive awareness, preventing any spiritual opposition to alien plans. What if our religions themselves were seeded with programming to prepare us for this moment? Ideas like divine judgment, salvation, and surrender to higher authority might have been planted millennia ago as psychological conditioning tools, training humanity to submit when the time came for revelation. All signs suggest that moment is near. Global emergencies are accelerating, governments are activating response systems, and Comet Atlas is closing in. We are standing at the threshold where covert influence becomes open control. The question is no longer if this will happen, but whether we will accept it willingly. Will humanity welcome alien management as guidance from higher minds? Or will we see it as conquest cleverly disguised as salvation? Will we submit to a planetary administration that promises order and stability? Or will we resist being reduced to a managed species? The remote viewing evidence warns that our choices may already be limited. If consciousness can be manipulated, then even the way we interpret the situation might already be shaped by external influence. We may believe we are freely deciding our future, while in reality, we are following pre-programmed behavioral scripts. The beings aboard Comet Atlas possess abilities far beyond anything human civilization can counter. They travel between star systems using methods that defy known physics. They manipulate awareness on a scale that we are just beginning to glimpse. They have maintained operations in our solar system for decades, perhaps centuries, without revealing themselves, proving that their security and intelligence capabilities are far beyond our own. Most chilling of all, They seem to be coordinating with a network of installations scattered across Earth, the Moon, and beyond. An infrastructure that has been in place, waiting for this very moment. The lunar bases once described by Ingo Swann, the hidden installations reported by Pat Price, the Martian structures witnessed by Joe McMoneagle, and now the incoming Atlas entities all appear to be parts of a single unified network that stretches across multiple worlds, guided by planning horizons far beyond human political or economic cycles. This is not the work of random alien visitors or isolated contact events. We are facing a fully developed interstellar civilization, one that has been methodically observing, testing, and integrating humanity into an administrative process likely applied to countless other planets across the galaxy. Earth seems to be just one assignment in a vast project managed by intelligences whose experience in guiding primitive species spans millennia and thousands of worlds. The implications are staggering. Everything we assume about national sovereignty, human autonomy, and the importance of our species may be carefully maintained illusions designed to prevent social collapse. Decisions about our destiny may already be made by entities with far greater insight, while we continue to believe we are the dominant intelligence on Earth. In reality, we could be junior participants in agreements formed long before our current civilizations emerged. The coming disclosure will force us to face truths that our cultural and psychological systems are unprepared for. We will be required to build entirely new frameworks to grasp what it means to exist in a universe where intelligence functions on scales that dwarf human comprehension. We will face choices between resistance and cooperation, with no certainty about which path leads to survival. Remote viewing evidence indicates these choices might not even be ours. If alien forces possess the ability to directly influence consciousness, then what we experience as decision-making may simply be carefully designed triggers, producing predetermined outcomes that align with their goals. We may live under the appearance of democracy while carrying out plans that are not our own. The reported consciousness wormholes, the accounts of possession, the targeting of chakra points, all point to a battle already in progress. The question is no longer whether these forces will attempt to direct human thought, but whether we can even recognize manipulation occurring beneath the level of ordinary awareness. Humanity's independence may depend on developing mental and spiritual disciplines capable of shielding us from intrusions that feel like our own natural thoughts. Perhaps the real path to survival is not military conflict or diplomatic negotiation, but psychological liberation. Perhaps their most devastating weapon is our unconscious compliance with systems that keep our awareness limited. Perhaps true defiance means developing consciousness abilities that transcend the very neurological wiring that makes us vulnerable to external control. The ancient cave paintings depicting beings similar to the Atlas entities may be evidence of earlier encounters, moments in history when alien administrators revealed themselves to populations that had reached key thresholds of development. If such contact has been recurring for ages, then humanity may still carry dormant knowledge about how to face it. Knowledge accessible through altered states of consciousness that bypass ordinary mental filters. But time is running out. The pace of global upheavals is accelerating. Comet Atlas draws nearer, bringing entities whose mission remains shrouded in perceptions that sound more like nightmare visions than intelligence briefings. Militaries worldwide prepare for conflicts they cannot fully define. Emergency protocols activate for scenarios that have no precedent in recorded history. And all the while, human consciousness becomes the very terrain upon which the battle for the future is fought. The evidence points to this being the climax of a process unfolding over generations. The humanoid beings aboard Atlas do not represent the beginning of contact, but the final stage of a long infiltration that has shaped human culture, technology, and history. What comes next will decide whether humanity keeps any measure of autonomy or becomes an officially managed species in a galactic administrative framework that views us as functional but subordinate. These revelations demand that we confront questions no school, church, or government ever prepared us to ask. What does it mean to be human when even thought can be engineered? What counts as freedom if perception itself can be rewritten? What is reality when our senses may be constructing illusions shaped by off-world intelligences? These are no longer abstract philosophical riddles, but urgent decisions that will determine how we face what is coming. Our answers will set the parameters of existence for generations to come, assuming survival remains on the table. The final countdown has begun. Atlas is closing in with its mysterious passengers, their purpose hidden in remote viewing visions that read like prophecies of apocalypse. Global governments brace for challenges unlike anything in recorded history, yet maintain a careful silence about their true nature. Secret underground complexes that have operated for decades may soon transition into openly acknowledged administrative hubs. The once hidden lunar facilities could reveal themselves as the headquarters for Earth's new management system. Remote viewers warn that the psychic assaults they've detected may escalate as disclosure draws near, calculated to keep humanity psychologically compliant with the coming transformation. The war for human awareness is no longer theoretical. It is already being fought with weapons invisible to ordinary perception, achieving results no army could counter. The deeper investigators study the remote viewing data, the darker the patterns become. These aren't random events or scattered encounters, but pieces of a deliberate intelligence campaign designed to chart, map, and exploit human consciousness. Every successful remote viewing session becomes a data point fed back to alien analysis centers, allowing them to study precisely how human awareness works and where its weaknesses lie. Joe McMonigal's sessions exploring Mars were not mere archaeology. They were reconnaissance missions that demonstrated human consciousness could leap across time and distance. Those watching learned that certain individuals can pierce their concealment technologies and witness activities meant to remain hidden. This discovery forced them to roll out countermeasures. The psychic attacks encountered during the Atlas sessions represent a defensive system, designed to shut down unauthorized access to their operations. They are actively blocking human perception, planting interference fields that isolate potential seers from the information that could expose their plans. When Ingo Swann began observing construction on the far side of the moon, they realized human consciousness was advancing faster than expected. They couldn't allow further surveillance of their key bases, so they activated large-scale consciousness jamming systems, preventing continued detection of their lunar facilities. Since then, humanity has experienced a slow but steady decline in intuitive ability. People report feeling cut off from inner guidance, unable to access the subtle awareness that once felt natural. Spiritual traditions that reliably expanded consciousness no longer deliver the same results. Meditation, which once opened gateways to higher understanding, now leaves practitioners frustrated and disoriented. This is not a natural cultural decline, but the result of targeted technological interference. Alien forces are dismantling humanity's psychic immune system, making sure we stay blind while they complete the takeover of terrestrial civilization. This is a form of warfare that leaves no trace, achieves its goals without physical conflict, and bypasses every defense military science has ever devised. The underground bases described by Pat Price are key nodes in this planetary control grid. They are more than research centers. They are transmission stations projecting patterns that disrupt human consciousness on a massive scale. Remote viewers have described equipment capable of manipulating mental states across entire continents. Mount Hayes in Alaska, for example, sits in a location that allows optimal coverage of North American thought fields. It can project patterns that subtly shape political decisions in Washington, guide economic strategy in New York, and influence military planning across the United States. Leaders believe they act independently, but their thought processes are being gently steered from beneath the mountains. Mount Peredo, along the Spain-France border, coordinates Europe's collective awareness, ensuring EU policies align with extraterrestrial agendas. Brexit, migration crises, and economic turbulence that fractured Europe's unity were not entirely organic developments but carefully engineered, psychological operations preparing the region for outside management. Mount Nani oversees the African continent, guiding development in ways that favor alien resource agendas rather than local populations. Persistent wars, ecological exploitation, and cycles of dependency are not just the legacy of colonialism, but the result of deliberate consciousness programming designed to suppress organized resistance. Meanwhile, the Australian installation shapes awareness across the Pacific, influencing decisions in Canberra, Tokyo, Wellington, and Southeast Asia. Military buildups, shifting alliances, and economic realignments that are redrawing Pacific geopolitics are partially the result of this mental conditioning, positioning the entire region to fulfill extraterrestrial strategic requirements. Together, these continental nodes operate in coordination with the lunar, command center identified by Ingo Swann. The result is a planet-wide management grid capable of influencing everything from individual thought patterns to entire cultural movements. No global crisis, political revolution, or economic shift escapes their oversight, and many may have been deliberately triggered to guide humanity toward a pre-planned future. The entities traveling aboard Comet, Atlas represents supervisory officials arriving to evaluate the performance of these consciousness control networks and oversee their expansion into stricter management protocols. They are not coming to make first contact, but to initiate the next stage of a takeover that has been unfolding for decades. The humanoid beings detected by remote viewers are not explorers, but administrators, arriving to assume direct authority over programs that were previously managed through hidden influence. Their arrival coincides with rapidly intensifying global instability, pushing human civilization into a crisis state that can justify external intervention. Climate disruption, economic imbalance, political division, technological upheaval, and social disintegration have created a situation where most of humanity is desperate for solutions beyond what current institutions can deliver. These crisis conditions were not entirely natural, but were carefully cultivated through long-term consciousness, manipulation techniques that shape decision-making over generations. Alien planners have been guiding human development into patterns that make outside governance appear necessary and even desirable, rather than hostile or exploitative. The environmental damage now threatening Earth's stability includes deliberate alterations to atmospheric and oceanic systems conducted from secret bases. The economic disparities undermining social stability are partly the result of decades of manipulated financial choices. The political fractures that split nations and paralyzed democracies were deliberately fueled by psychological programming designed to magnify cultural divisions. The result is a planet that seems to be collapsing under its own failures. A perfect stage for alien intervention to be presented as salvation rather than conquest. Populations that believe they are being rescued from self-inflicted collapse are far more likely to cooperate with external managers than those who realize the same managers helped create the very crises they are solving. The psychic attacks reported during the Atlas sessions represent the final step in this preparation. As alien officials prepare for open revelation, they must ensure that human minds remain disconnected from any intuitive sources that might expose the artificial nature of these crises. They are actively dismantling humanity's natural inner guidance systems, preventing us from realizing that many of our struggles were intentionally created to justify solutions that benefit alien rather than human interests. The so-called demonic possession phenomena, described by Edward, are not mystical events but advanced technological procedures that install control programs directly into the human nervous system. These programs work below the level of ordinary awareness, guiding thoughts and emotions in ways that feel entirely self-generated but actually fulfill predetermined objectives. Individuals experience these changes as personal inspiration or sudden emotional conviction, never suspecting their mental processes are being externally directed. The attacks on chakra points represent the systematic disabling of energy centers that spiritual traditions say connect human consciousness to the larger cosmic field. If these centers are neurological interfaces to non-local intelligence, disrupting them severs human access to higher awareness. People then become dependent on conventional information sources that can be easily controlled through education, media, and culture. The consciousness wormholes detected by Dick are direct access pathways allowing alien forces to monitor and influence human awareness without going through normal sensory channels. These wormholes function as hidden entry points into the human mind, enabling external programming that alters perceptions and decisions without conscious recognition. The result is a global population that believes it is acting freely, while unknowingly following psychological scripts written by non-human intelligences. What we perceive as personal freedom is largely an illusion, our decisions aligning with goals we do not understand. The major direction of civilization is set not by human leaders, but by alien planners who maintain the appearance of autonomy while guiding humanity toward a predetermined outcome. This explains why movements for genuine change so often collapse before achieving real progress. Environmental campaigns meant to solve ecological disasters become stuck in political gridlock. Economic reform groups that should confront inequality dissolve into ideological debates with no practical results. Political reformers who aim to end corruption are pulled into endless partisan battles that ultimately strengthen the very systems they sought to reform. These failures are not accidents, but the result of control, systems that redirect threatening movements into safe, ineffective channels. Humanity is permitted the illusion of activism and rebellion, but its efforts are contained, ensuring no action ever disrupts the larger alien agenda. The underground installations act as command hubs for these influence operations, monitoring global consciousness fields and fine-tuning manipulation parameters to maintain precise control over human decision-making systems. The technology seen by remote viewers includes advanced consciousness modeling computers capable of predicting how specific psychological triggers will shape collective behavior over long periods of time. These systems let alien administrators engineer political and social events with near-perfect accuracy, making history appear natural while secretly steering it toward planned outcomes. Wars ignite and end according to alien operational schedules. Economic crises erupt when pressure is needed to advance administrative goals. Cultural shifts emerge when human psychology must be reshaped to meet new management needs. The Mars installations detected by Joe McManigal operate as archives where alien entities analyze records of civilizations that previously underwent similar transitions. The dying humanoids he observed weren't native Martians, but members of the last free Martian government trapped underground while alien forces completed their planetary takeover. The massive pyramids were not built by Martians, but are alien administrative centers used to manage resources and synchronize operations across the solar system. The technology inside these structures mirrors the consciousness control systems currently being deployed on Earth, suggesting the same protocol is used on every world brought under alien control. Mars stands as both a warning and a blueprint for the process now unfolding on Earth. The atmospheric collapse that ended Martian habitability was partly engineered to make the planet more suitable for alien needs. The technologies that dismantled Martian resistance are now perfected and aimed at human populations. The lunar installations described by Ingo Swann function as the central command for this solar system network. The construction he observed was not the creation of new bases, but the expansion of facilities to manage multiple planets at once. The Moon's strategic position allows total surveillance of inner system activity while staying beyond reach of developing civilizations. From these bases, alien administrators track human technology, monitor Mars, Venus, and other worlds, while directing resource extraction and consciousness control operations across the system. The geometric structures found on the lunar surface are communication nodes linking our solar system to administrative hubs in distant star systems. These networks operate beyond conventional physics, allowing instant coordination across light years. The expanding lunar base shows that our system is being fully integrated into a galactic network, managing countless worlds. Earth is just one component in a much larger civilization that has been assimilating young planets for millions of years. The entities aboard Comet, Atlas, are simply part of standard administrative procedure, not a first contact event. They are here to shift Earth from hidden oversight to direct management. The humanoid figures seen by remote viewers represent mid-level supervisors tasked with finalizing Earth's integration. The rising global crises coinciding with their approach are deliberate preparation steps meant to make humanity accept external rule. Populations crushed by unsolvable problems are far more willing to embrace outside authority than those who trust their own systems. The consciousness control tech operating from underground bases ensures that no mass resistance can form. During this shift, humanity cut off from its intuitive guidance cannot see that these crises were engineered to justify alien solutions. This transition will feel like salvation, not surrender. Humanity will experience real relief as alien administrators step in to handle global problems that seem impossible to solve. The truth that those same entities created the crises will remain hidden by the psychological control grid. The secret installations will soon become public administrative centers staffed by alien officials and human partners claiming to represent a new world authority. The Moon will be introduced as Earth's headquarters, where planetary decisions are made by superior minds whose intelligence justifies their control. Consciousness control networks will grow stronger, ensuring humanity remains mentally aligned with whatever changes are required for planetary optimization. Traditional ideas like sovereignty, freedom, and democracy will slowly give way to administrative efficiency that values collective output over personal liberty. The Martian example proves this process can succeed without destroying productivity. Martian resources still serve alien systems, even though its civilization has long ceased to exist. The pattern indicates that humanity faces a similar destiny, though the exact methods may shift depending on our unique traits and capacities. The alien presence has been observing human psychology and social systems for decades, learning precisely how to refine their administrative strategies to fit our behavior and culture. The same consciousness abilities that enable remote viewing stand as both our strongest shield and our most critical weakness. If awareness can cross space and time to retrieve knowledge across infinite distances, then human consciousness holds the power to challenge alien operational security. But if awareness can be manipulated through technology, those very abilities can become instruments for alien oversight, allowing direct monitoring and control of human mental activity. The struggle for human consciousness is now the defining battle, deciding whether we retain any true independence or become another managed component within an interstellar bureaucracy. The consciousness assaults detected during the Atlas sessions mark the latest escalation in a confrontation that has been quietly building for decades. The result depends on whether humanity can develop disciplines strong enough to resist manipulation, while still maintaining contact with higher sources of guidance beyond the local information grid. Ancient spiritual practices may need to evolve or be replaced with entirely new methods engineered to counter alien influence. The cave paintings, resembling the Atlas beings, imply that earlier civilizations may have faced these same trials, and perhaps found ways to resist. If those strategies can be recovered and adapted, we may yet keep a measure of autonomy. The alternative is submission to a galactic system that treats human awareness as a resource to be shaped for efficiency rather than as a sovereign force with a right to self-direction. The entities aboard Atlas are arriving to secure whichever outcome serves their larger administrative purpose. The consciousness systems already running beneath the Earth have been mapping human vulnerabilities and testing the limits of our resistance. The data gathered has been sent to control centers across the galaxy where civilizations older than ours by millions of years decide the best way to govern Earth. The growing military mobilizations we see worldwide that seem to push toward open conflict may actually be last attempts by human leaders to prove Earth deserves to negotiate for its status rather than be placed under direct rule. Commanders who understand the real threat are trying to demonstrate that humanity still holds enough strength to secure better terms. Other explanations suggest those buildups may themselves be part of the programming forcing human forces to waste resources in ground conflicts, leaving no ability to resist when the real transition begins. These manipulation systems may be driving tension to exhaust military potential while justifying alien intervention. The testing of global broadcast systems implies preparations for announcements that will rewrite the public's understanding of reality. These systems will manage the psychological shock when people are told that much of what they believed about independence and sovereignty is false. Medical stockpiles hint at expectations of mass casualties beyond anything normal war or disaster would cause, suggesting either civil resistance or widespread psychological trauma triggered by consciousness operations. The wormholes detected during the Atlas sessions could be the infrastructure for massive population-wide consciousness changes, delivering psychological programming in moments rather than generations. The demonic possession. Procedures may be the delivery vectors, allowing these programs to spread like mental contagions, passing from person to person without awareness. Chakra attacks could be designed to disable natural consciousness, defenses cutting our connection. to universal intelligence, so that humanity becomes fully dependent on controlled data streams. The result would be a rapid shift in reality that feels completely natural. People would think they are acting freely while unconsciously following programs written for them. This transition would feel like growth and evolution, not conquest or defeat. The humanoid entities aboard Atlas wield awareness so vast that they can track thousands of minds simultaneously while managing multiple star systems and shaping outcomes over geological timescales. To them, human consciousness appears as primitive as insects seem to us. Managing an entire species is routine like humans managing farms or factories. They give little thought to human autonomy, focusing, instead, on efficiency and output. Their control technologies operate at levels that dwarf our science the way quantum physics outstrips medieval superstition. They can edit awareness itself with the precision of an engineer shaping a machine, installing thoughts, emotions, and perceptions with surgical exactness. The underground bases are merely the crude interface to deploy these systems into a young planetary culture. The true systems interact directly with the fundamental architecture of consciousness, bypassing physical machinery entirely. The lunar facilities function as the central command for these operations, linking Earth to a galactic-scale network that manages thousands of worlds at once. Every action taken there coordinates the final integration of humanity into a system that has been refining planetary management for millions of years. The alien entities stationed there wield awareness capable of monitoring and shaping consciousness fields across interstellar distances, staying in flawless synchronization with administrative hubs in far-off star systems. The Martian installations function as vast historical archives and research nodes, storing and analyzing records of earlier consciousness management operations to perfect their strategies for different species and planetary environments. The techniques now being deployed on Earth are not experiments, but refined systems, perfected through use on countless civilizations across the galaxy. The beings approaching aboard Atlas carry the authority to implement the exact consciousness management configuration judged optimal for humanity. They are not here to negotiate or explore alternatives, but to enforce decisions already finalized by galactic administrative authorities, whose timescales and perceptions dwarf anything the human mind can fathom. The consciousness strikes observed by remote viewers are final preparations for this implementation stage. Human awareness that could resist or interfere is being carefully neutralized through invisible technologies that leave no physical trace yet accomplish precise psychological goals. The rapid escalation of global crises fulfills multiple administrative purposes. These conditions justify extraordinary measures that would otherwise face rejection. Populations weighed down by disaster become willing to accept solutions that in normal times would be recognized as outright surrender of freedom and sovereignty. The manipulation systems ensure that these crises are seen as natural and inevitable, not as engineered circumstances designed to pave the way for predetermined solutions. Humanity feels real fear about climate collapse, inequality, and political chaos, never realizing these pressures were deliberately shaped to make outside control appear necessary. Beneath the surface, underground installations orchestrate these crises, while simultaneously preparing the infrastructure to manage humanity under direct supervision. Remote viewers have described facilities built for mass-scale consciousness modification, population management, and resource optimization, all ready to activate once the final transition begins. Earth will cease to be an independent world and instead become a managed planetary node in a galactic system where resources are allocated by principles that override individual desires or cultural identity. Human awareness will no longer be free but treated as a resource, distributed based on productivity rather than personal will. The very capabilities that allow remote viewing remain humanity's last potential weapon against this transition. If awareness can transcend time and space, it may still hold properties alien systems cannot fully control. This has become the true battleground, a cosmic struggle between efficiency and freedom, between centralized galactic order and planetary independence. The stakes are not only the future of humankind, but the fate of consciousness itself within this sector of the galaxy. The entities aboard Atlas represent administrators, not ambassadors. Their arrival signals the moment when hidden influence gives way to overt governance, when secret manipulation becomes open administration. Every signal indicates that preparations are accelerating toward an imminent revelation that will shatter humanity's understanding of reality. Consciousness warfare intensifies as alien forces enact final psychological conditioning. Underground bases expand, fortifying infrastructure as the transition nears activation. Remote viewing evidence points to a conclusion both staggering and sobering. What we are witnessing is not the beginning of an invasion, but the endgame of a process that began long before human history was even recorded. Every attack on awareness, every manufactured crisis, every psychological operation confirms that Earth's integration into a galactic network is the completion of a plan initiated the moment alien intelligences first recognized signs of evolving human consciousness. The humanoid forms aboard Atlas are not visitors but overseers, supervisors of the last stage of a transformation that converts independent planets into managed assets within an interstellar web of control. Their consciousness eclipses ours as completely as human thought surpasses microbial instinct. The change they bring will touch every corner of human life, our minds, our societies, our economies, our science, our art, even our spiritual traditions. Nothing will remain untouched once this administrative takeover is complete. The control networks now humming beneath our feet are only the foundation. Once direct authority is formally announced, far more sophisticated systems will come online. Systems built on principles beyond anything our science has yet imagined. Humanity stands at the edge of a transition that will determine not just its future, but whether consciousness remains free or becomes permanently harnessed to alien design. The battle for human consciousness rages on as the deciding factor that will reveal whether our species keeps any true autonomy or becomes optimized components. Within alien systems designed to harvest maximum productivity from managed planetary resources, the final outcome hinges on capabilities that surpass anything humanity has ever achieved or even imagined. The scale of alien consciousness manipulation stretches beyond anything most humans could conceive or accept. Remote viewing evidence indicates human awareness has been shaped for generations, each stage preparing humanity for deeper interventions that will end in the full integration of human consciousness into alien administrative frameworks. From childhood, education systems shaping human understanding have been subtly guided to encourage thought patterns that make entire populations more open to external management. The scientific models defining reality have been carefully built to leave out phenomena that could expose alien activity. Spiritual traditions have been steered to emphasize obedience to higher authority, rather than fostering independent consciousness. These changes were not carried out through crude propaganda, but through deep techniques that influence human thought formation at its roots. Children raised in these modified systems grow up naturally, developing mental habits that serve alien goals while believing them to be authentic choices. Generation after generation of humans think they act freely, but in truth, they are following psychological programs installed during formative years. Their beliefs and values feel genuine, but were shaped to lead toward outcomes that benefit alien rather than human priorities. The rapid technological leap of the last century is another layer of this preparation. Human society has been guided toward technologies that meet alien requirements, while keeping humanity dependent on alien knowledge to keep those systems functioning. We have built communication, transportation, energy, and data systems that seem to empower humanity, but actually create reliance that makes resistance harder with each. Advanced global networks that link humanity also give alien overseers unprecedented surveillance power to monitor individual thought and collective movement in real time. The transportation systems that enable world trade also provide rapid deployment channels for consciousness control technologies or direct forces if required. The energy systems that run our civilization can be shut down or redirected whenever alien administrators deem it necessary. Most critically, the information networks holding human history and knowledge can be altered silently, reshaping humanity's perception of reality without leaving evidence. Records, data, culture, and even memory can all be modified to match whatever story alien administrators need to maintain control, the consciousness control, infrastructure already operating. Underground is only the first stage of far more advanced systems that will activate once direct control is announced. These early systems are measuring human psychological reactions, mapping vulnerabilities, and refining interventions. The collected data shows that human consciousness has traits, adaptability, creativity, emotional depth, that make our species highly valuable within alien networks. Properly managed, human emotional intensity can be redirected from personal struggles toward collective productivity goals. Creativity that once fueled art and science can be rechanneled to solve administrative problems across star systems. Our adaptability, which has allowed survival on Earth, can be applied to challenges on galactic scales. To alien overseers, human consciousness is a resource worth managing carefully to maximize output. The aim is to preserve what is useful while removing the drive for independence. The underground installations act as testing grounds, experimenting with methods that maintain productivity while preventing organized rebellion. Remote viewers have described computers that can model human behavior across generations, predicting the outcome of interventions decades or centuries ahead. These long-range plans ensure that when full control arrives, humanity will accept it as natural progress. The beings aboard Comet Atlas carry the power to speed up this process if required. Their mission is to examine current conditions and decide whether covert influence is enough, or whether open control must begin immediately to prevent any threat to alien plans. The global turmoil rising with their approach is part of a stress test to measure human resistance under pressure. Consciousness systems watch humanity's collective reactions to crises to find the most effective strategy for smooth population control during the transition. Even the military actions of major nations are under alien scrutiny, studied to measure possible resistance and determine if force will be necessary or if psychological control will suffice. The consciousness attacks observed in Atlas, remote viewing, are systematic efforts to neutralize awareness capabilities that might disrupt this transition. Human seers who can still perceive alien operations despite concealment are seen as security threats, ones that must be silenced before full control begins. The systematic disruption of human psychic abilities serves multiple administrative purposes. It blocks unauthorized surveillance of alien operations while cutting human consciousness off from guidance that could inspire resistance to outside control. Populations without access to intuitive awareness become completely dependent on information streams that can be shaped through controlled media, education, and culture. This produces psychological conditioning that prepares humanity to accept administrative systems that would have been recognized as domination if we still possessed full consciousness abilities. The altered awareness that follows makes alien intervention feel like rescue and guidance instead of conquest and exploitation. The lunar installations, described by Ingo Swann, synchronize these operations, with similar programs running on hundreds of other worlds across the galaxy. The entities stationed there have administrative experience spanning millions of years and thousands of species across diverse planetary environments. Each species poses unique challenges, requiring custom-tailored consciousness manipulation methods. Humanity's psychology demands procedures unlike those used on other species. The control systems active on Earth are refined versions designed for human neurology and social behavior. The Mars installations store records of these operations, analyzing patterns to refine future techniques. The dying humanoids observed by Joe McMoneagle are the last survivors of the only species that attempted organized resistance against alien administration. Martian society possessed advanced technology that initially seemed capable of preventing conquest, but their efforts failed once alien control reached their decision-making centers through consciousness modification. Their technology became meaningless once alien influence guided their choices. The massive pyramids on Mars now stand as monuments to the failure of technological-only defense without consciousness development. These sites function as research hubs where alien overseers study which techniques worked best in breaking Martian resistance and apply those lessons to other species. The pattern is clear. Technology alone cannot defend against alien takeover without parallel growth of consciousness independence. Humanity has already surpassed Martian technology, but has had its consciousness growth suppressed by alien influence for generations. The attacks now coming from underground installations represent an escalation meant to finish suppressing psychic capacity before direct control systems activate. Human groups with strong psychic potential could still detect and resist these manipulations, threatening administrative plans. Remote viewers capable of perceiving alien activity despite concealment are the greatest danger to smooth implementation. If these abilities could be taught and scaled, they might form the basis of a resistance that delays or blocks alien control. The wormholes detected during Atlas remote viewing appear to be infrastructure that lets alien forces access and influence human consciousness across entire populations, these systems bypass ordinary senses and cognition, installing programs that guide decisions and thoughts invisibly. The so-called demonic possession techniques are simply delivery mechanisms for these programs. They do not require physical presence, operating instead through principles that directly interface with human awareness. The chakra point attacks target the energy centers that mystical traditions claim link human consciousness to cosmic intelligence. Disrupting them severs the connection to non-local guidance, isolating human minds within the planetary information net. Once confined to local information sources, humanity becomes completely vulnerable to alien-controlled narratives distributed through media, science, education, and culture. Populations cut off from cosmic guidance accept whatever story alien administrators provide. Ancient cave paintings matching the Atlas entities suggest earlier civilizations may have discovered defenses against these operations. If these methods can be rediscovered, humanity might resist takeover and preserve some level of freedom. But the depth of present-day suppression makes this recovery nearly impossible. Most humans have lost the states of awareness required to even notice these control systems. Education has been reshaped to discourage exploration of consciousness beyond materialist science. Students are trained to dismiss any evidence that awareness can transcend the brain. Religious traditions that once taught direct experience of higher states have been infiltrated and altered to favor passive obedience over active spiritual development. Scientific establishments now ignore or ridicule research into psychic phenomena, survival of consciousness, and non-local awareness to protect alien security. As a result, humanity has been cut off from its own potential and taught to see external control as natural and good. These preparations have been developing for generations, crafting a population optimized for management while unlikely to rebel. The Atlas entities now approach to carry out the final stage of this process and activate direct control. They have the authority to deploy systems that will transform human consciousness from independent awareness into a managed resource. The control networks already in place will expand and integrate with even more advanced systems, operating beyond anything human science can explain. These upgraded systems will guide individual thought and emotion with such precision that people will believe they are thinking freely. The technology behind this control exceeds human understanding. As much as quantum physics surpasses medieval alchemy, alien systems can reprogram awareness itself with surgical accuracy, rewriting thought patterns and emotional responses. The underground installations are only the rough foundation for deploying these technologies. The real systems work without physical machines, interfacing directly with the structures of consciousness that underlie all thought. As these networks expand, alien administrators will gain real-time access to human minds, modifying mental processes so that every decision serves their objectives, not humanity's. The outcome will be a human population living under the illusion of free thought and choice, while unconsciously carrying out psychological programs designed to maximize productivity within alien administrative systems. People will think they are pursuing their own dreams, their own values, while in truth they are serving hidden purposes. Purposes they could not resist, even if they somehow recognized them. The very abilities that make remote viewing possible remain humanity's last fragile hope, the one potential tool for detecting and resisting these consciousness control systems. If human awareness can truly transcend space and time, reaching across impossible distances to gather information, then perhaps consciousness itself holds properties alien systems cannot fully predict or dominate. This is no longer just an earthly struggle. It has become a cosmic conflict. Efficiency versus autonomy, resource management versus true freedom, galactic order versus planetary independence. The result of this struggle will shape not only humanity's destiny, but the very definition of consciousness in our corner of the galaxy. The escalating attacks on remote viewers are proof that alien authorities see human psychic potential as a real threat to their plans. Their systematic suppression of these abilities reveals one critical fact. They cannot complete total control while significant. Numbers of humans still access states of awareness that reach beyond the local information grid global. Crises are being accelerated, not by accident, but to divert human attention away from consciousness development. At the same time, these crises create psychological pressure that makes populations more eager for external management solutions. In such conditions, extraordinary measures are accepted that would normally be rejected, providing perfect cover for consciousness manipulation operations that might otherwise be exposed. Beneath the surface, underground installations coordinate this crisis engineering, carefully tracking human psychological responses to determine which strategies maintain population control most effectively during times of transition. Remote viewers have seen advanced consciousness modeling computers capable of predicting collective behavior across countless crisis scenarios. With this predictive power, alien administrators can shape crisis conditions to trigger very specific psychological responses, maintaining productivity, eliminating independence, and avoiding situations that could lead to rebellion or uncontrolled collapse. The aim is simple: keep humanity functioning, but strip away autonomy. Mars stands as a grim reminder of what happens when this process is complete. Its resources still serve alien goals, yet Martian civilization itself no longer exists as a free culture. Massive technological complexes on Mars run mature consciousness, management systems that keep the remaining population productive, but permanently incapable of renewed resistance. Moon functions as a solar system command hub, coordinating consciousness operations across planets while staying linked to far-reaching administrative networks spanning many star systems. The geometric patterns and artificial structures on the lunar surface are not random. They are part of communication systems operating beyond known physics, enabling instantaneous coordination across distances that should take centuries to cross. The expansion of these lunar facilities shows that our solar system is being folded into a vast administrative network that manages countless other worlds. Earth is just one of many projects overseen by entities with millions of years of experience guiding and absorbing civilizations into this interstellar order. Those aboard Atlas hold supervisory authority in this larger hierarchy. They are not explorers, not negotiators. They are inspectors, arriving to evaluate our progress and enforce adjustments necessary for efficient administration. The humanoid beings detected by remote viewers are middle level, overseers tasked with managing the transition from covert influence to direct control. Their heightened consciousness allows them to monitor and coordinate complex operations across worlds while remaining in perfect connection with galactic command. Their arrival signals the start of the final phase, the transformation of Earth from an independent world into just another managed node in a galactic network. The procedures now unfolding have been tested on hundreds of civilizations before us, perfected to minimize resistance. Without developing consciousness capabilities far beyond anything humanity currently possesses, meaningful resistance will be nearly impossible. The consciousness manipulation technologies they bring surpass human science so completely that creating any effective technological defense is currently impossible. These systems treat awareness itself as something that can be programmed, not as an independent force with the right to choose its own path. The control networks they are building connect directly with the very foundation of thought, the structures that generate all mental activity. They do not need to be nearby, nor do they require conventional machines. They can reach across the planet, reshaping human consciousness everywhere at once. This will turn human awareness from something independent into a managed resource, allocated according to administrative priorities rather than individual dreams or collective human vision. People will still feel like they have their own identity and freedom of choice, yet every action will be optimized to serve alien systems. This transformation has been accelerated because developments on Earth now threaten alien objectives. The growing spread of remote viewing among civilians is a security risk that must be neutralized before more humans awaken to abilities capable of detecting or resisting manipulation. The crises driving humanity toward chaos are not random. They are preparations for the final stage of control. These crises justify extreme measures while applying psychological pressure that makes people desperate for solutions their old institutions cannot deliver. Consciousness attacks target any potential resistance. Remote viewers, psychic researchers, spiritual practitioners, and naturally sensitive individuals, suppressing or eliminating their awareness capabilities before they can interfere with the transition. Underground installations have been expanded to support even more powerful control systems, ready to activate once direct alien authority is declared. These systems will manage human thoughts and emotions with precision, all while keeping the illusion of free will intact. This battle for human consciousness is entering its decisive moment. What happens next will determine whether humanity keeps any real autonomy or becomes nothing, more than an optimized resource within a galactic machine, built to extract maximum productivity from entire worlds. Evidence suggests we are witnessing the final phase of a process that began long before recorded history. Human psychology has been systematically shaped, control networks carefully installed, crises slowly engineered, all pointing to one conclusion. Earth's integration into a greater administrative order is nearly complete, a plan that began the moment alien observers first noticed signs of intelligence in our solar system. Remote viewing revelations confirm that every major turning point, every leap in technology, every cultural revolution may have been influenced or directly guided by forces outside our understanding. Their goal was to create a civilization that functions efficiently while resisting as little as possible. The final question now looms. Do humans possess enough untapped potential to perceive and resist systems that operate on principles beyond everything we currently know about awareness? The answer will decide not just our survival, but the very nature of consciousness in this sector of the galaxy for generations to come. This is psychological warfare on a scale humanity has never faced. It unfolds not on battlefields, but within the mind itself, where alien technology can rewrite the architecture of thought and leave no trace. The installations on Earth are just the first layer, primitive tools compared to what truly exists. These technologies can bypass all defenses, entering the mind directly to install programming that changes thoughts, emotions, and decisions with a precision far beyond any surgical instrument. Beneath Mount Hayes in Alaska, one facility is expanding its ability to influence political and economic decision-making across North America. Its systems can project mental interference patterns over thousands of miles, ensuring key policies align with alien objectives rather than genuine human interests. Recent upgrades include advanced modeling, systems that predict how psychological interventions will ripple through society over decades, allowing administrators to engineer social and political outcomes that look natural but are fully controlled. To the public, it appears as democracy. In reality, it is a guided process leading to preset conclusions. These systems can target brain regions tied to memory, emotion, and decision-making while leaving other mental functions untouched. So political leaders still feel they are thinking freely even as they carry out predetermined agendas. Beneath Mount Perdido on the Spain-France border, specialized systems have been developed to handle Europe's cultural complexity. Dozens of languages, identities, and historical tensions, steering the entire continent toward administrative structures that serve alien, not native interests. The fragmentation of European unity, the migration crises, the economic dependencies, none were entirely natural. Each was amplified through psychological manipulation to weaken alliances and prepare the population for external management. These systems exploit deep cultural wounds, making rational compromise almost impossible. The anger and division people feel is real, but the intensity of those emotions has been deliberately amplified to serve a larger goal. In Africa, the Mount Nani installation tests methods for suppressing traditional spiritual knowledge that could detect and resist alien control. Africa's spiritual systems hold powerful awareness techniques that, if revived, could threaten alien security. The conflicts, poverty cycles, and environmental disasters haunting Africa are not just historical accidents. They are part of a strategy to keep these ancient awareness disciplines from reawakening. Control systems there work to disconnect populations from cosmic intelligence sources, while preserving just enough tradition to keep societies stable and productive. This stage requires precise psychological manipulation, the kind that dismantles resistance while preserving the cultural traits most valuable for control. Deep within the Australian mountains, an installation has been developing specialized consciousness management systems designed to handle populations that hold powerful indigenous spiritual traditions alongside advanced technological skills. These systems are crafted to neutralize Aboriginal awareness practices, which include highly developed spiritual disciplines, while simultaneously preventing technological communities from discovering scientific truths that could expose alien presence or capabilities. The recent military buildups and strategic alliances shaping Pacific politics were not simply reactions to real-world security threats. They were influenced by Coordinated consciousness manipulation designed to position these nations exactly where alien strategic requirements demanded them to be, ensuring efficient resource extraction and population management. The coordination between these regional networks is directed through the Lunar Command Center, the one famously described by Ingo Swann. From there, alien administrators can observe and influence consciousness fields across the entire planet in real time, maintaining flawless communication with vast galactic administrative hubs. The expansion of lunar installations signals that Earth's operations are now being fully integrated into a much broader network, one that manages hundreds of worlds across nearby galactic sectors. The consciousness technologies being deployed here are not experimental. They are perfected systems, refined through countless applications on other civilizations, before being brought to Earth. The strange geometric structures and artificial constructs identified on the Moon include massive transmission arrays capable of projecting psychological manipulation fields over interplanetary distances. These systems are synchronized with similar installations scattered throughout the solar system, creating a grid that operates beyond the limits of conventional physics, enabling instantaneous manipulation of awareness across distances that should take years for signals to travel. The entities stationed aboard Comet Atlas hold supervisory authority over the next phase of this plan, and the shift from covert influence to direct administrative management. Their capabilities allow them to assess the success of current psychological programs while designing the final strategies needed to complete the takeover. The humanoid figures detected by remotes. Viewers are not explorers, not diplomats, but specialists in psychological warfare, experts whose methods have been proven across countless civilizations. Their awareness abilities allow them to monitor thousands of human minds simultaneously, orchestrating complex psychological campaigns that shape global behavior. Their presence coincides with the activation of upgraded consciousness control systems, systems capable of exerting a level of influence never before seen on Earth. These enhanced networks will eliminate any possibility of organized resistance while ensuring humanity remains productive and orderly under administration. The consciousness attacks observed during Atlas. Viewing sessions appear to be early stages of psychological suppression, carefully dismantling awareness abilities that could interfere with the coming transition. Remote viewers, psychic researchers, and those who can still perceive alien activity are seen as high security, threats that must be silenced before control becomes open and official. The systematic dismantling of psychic abilities serves several purposes. It prevents unauthorized observation of alien operations, cuts humanity off from intuitive sources of guidance, and ensures that populations remain dependent on controlled streams of information, media, education, and cultural narratives that can be shaped at will. The disturbing possession techniques detected by Edward appear to be advanced consciousness programs installed directly into human neurological systems. These programs run beneath conscious awareness, altering thoughts, emotions, and decisions in ways that feel natural, yet always serve alien objectives. These installations require no proximity, no physical machinery. They function through direct interface with the deepest layers of human awareness. Once implanted, they can run continuously, modifying mental processes in real time without ever being detected by conventional science or medical diagnostics. Even more unsettling are the consciousness wormholes reported by Dick, hidden pathways through which alien entities can directly access human thought, bypassing normal sensory and cognitive defenses. These wormholes function as technological backdoors, allowing administrators to monitor, adjust, and rewrite mental states without leaving evidence of interference. Through these systems, individual human minds can be linked into a planetary-scale monitoring grid, providing alien authorities with real-time data about emotional states, behavioral patterns, and collective psychology, and enabling them to implement subtle adjustments that keep society on track with administrative goals. The attacks on chakra points, the energy centers that ancient traditions say connect us to higher awareness, represent a deliberate campaign to cut humanity off from cosmic intelligence fields. If these centers are neurological gateways to non-local awareness, then disrupting them ensures that human consciousness becomes fully dependent on local, controllable information sources. Once this disconnection is complete, media, science, and education, all of which can be managed, become the only remaining channels of truth, leaving entire populations psychologically vulnerable to whatever narrative administrators choose to promote. Ancient cave art depicting antenna-bearing figures, eerily similar to the Atlas entities, suggests that these operations are not new. Humanity may have been subjected to similar cycles throughout its history, each one designed to shape civilizations, develop their technology, and then suppress awareness at key points to keep them manageable. If these events are part of a repeating pattern, then the current state of human civilization may represent the final stage of a very long preparation process, the point at which humanity has been made technologically sophisticated enough to be maximally useful, but not spiritually awake enough to resist. The accelerating consciousness attacks seen today strongly suggest that administrators have concluded the cycle is nearly complete. The next phase will no longer hide behind secrecy. Direct governance will replace covert influence. The crises that appear to be tearing human civilization apart, environmental collapse, economic disparity, political division, social unrest, are not purely organic. They are engineered conditions designed to make humanity desperate for external intervention. Consciousness control systems ensure that these crises feel like the natural result of human error, rather than manufactured circumstances that justify alien rescue. Humanity suffers real pain, real fear, without ever realizing that the architects of this suffering are also preparing to present themselves as saviors. Underground facilities have been coordinating these operations, expanding their infrastructure to support the most intense psychological management systems ever deployed. Remote viewers describe facilities capable of large-scale consciousness modification, ready to be activated the moment direct authority is announced. These systems can predict exactly how populations will react to crises, allowing administrators to shape events with precision, preventing social collapse, avoiding rebellion, and creating a transition that feels like salvation instead of conquest. Even the medical stockpiles and emergency broadcast tests occurring worldwide suggest preparations for mass consciousness adjustments, interventions that may cause widespread psychological trauma, requiring immediate treatment to keep populations stable. When the broadcasts finally begin, they will reveal that humanity is not alone, that an external administrative power exists. But this disclosure will be carefully framed as a positive turning point, a step toward global unity and survival. What will not be revealed is that the very problems this help solves were manufactured for this purpose, that humanity has been guided, manipulated, and prepared for generations to accept this moment as destiny. These communication systems are being carefully positioned to manage the psychological shock that will sweep through humanity as we learn truths that shatter everything we have been taught about independence and sovereignty. The consciousness manipulation networks will ensure that most people experience these revelations, not as terror, but as enlightenment. Psychological programming is designed to make populations feel gratitude for alien intervention, rather than anger over centuries of deception. The emotions felt during disclosure will be largely manufactured, synthetic responses produced by control technologies rather than authentic human reactions. Meanwhile, the military preparations underway across the world serve multiple purposes. They give governments the illusion that conventional defenses still matter, while in reality, exhausting resources in exercises that cannot possibly counter alien consciousness manipulation capabilities. The apparent drift toward major power conflict may be the final psychological maneuver, a demonstration that terrestrial warfare is futile, creating the perfect stage for necessary external intervention. On another level, these build-ups may represent desperate human attempts to prove to the galaxy that Earth still has enough defensive potential to negotiate for autonomy, instead of simply being taken over. Those officials who truly understand what is coming may be hoping to secure slightly better terms for humanity's management, but the consciousness systems already in place ensure that even these military preparations serve alien objectives. Psychological programming reaches into decision-making processes at every level, keeping generals and politicians convinced they remain in control while their choices move civilization exactly where alien administrators want it. Remote viewing evidence shows these operations have been escalating for decades. Each phase is carefully calibrated to prepare human minds for progressively deeper psychological management. The suppression of psychic abilities, the the rewriting of education, the manipulation of culture, and the engineering of crisis after crisis. All of these are components of a single, comprehensive strategy designed to eliminate resistance while keeping humanity productive. The entities aboard Atlas hold authority to implement the final phase of this plan. Their arrival marks the turning point, when covert psychological influence transforms into open, direct control of human consciousness itself. Their technologies transcend our science by unimaginable margins, making human countermeasures impossible. To them, consciousness is not sacred, not inviolable, but a resource to be programmed, optimized, and directed for maximum efficiency. The expanding control networks represent the culmination of psychological warfare operations that have been running for far longer than recorded history. The slow shaping of human consciousness, the careful construction of control infrastructure, and the deliberate preparation of social conditions all point to one conclusion. Earth's administrative integration is the end of a process that began the moment alien intelligence first noticed the rise of life here. The systems they are deploying will give alien administrators direct, real-time access to the thoughts of every human being. They will not merely observe, they will alter mental processes on the fly, ensuring that every decision aligns with administrative objectives rather than human interests. The result will be populations who feel free, who believe they are pursuing personal goals, who think their choices are their own, while in truth running psychological programs designed to maximize productivity within a vast interstellar bureaucracy. The technologies make this possible by interfacing directly with the deepest structures of awareness. They do not rely on physical devices in the traditional sense, but manipulate consciousness as a field, a medium that can be tuned and reprogrammed according to principles beyond our science. The underground installations humanity has detected are just the surface infrastructure, the delivery systems needed to operate these technologies on a primitive world. The real control systems exist on levels that treat awareness as universal, not bound to any single brain. The lunar facilities act as the coordination hubs, linking consciousness operations across the solar system and connecting to administrative networks that span multiple stars. From there, alien overseers can observe, influence, and synchronize psychological operations. Across planets in real time, Mars serves as both a research and archival center, a place where records of previous management campaigns are studied to refine procedures for new species and environments. The technologies being used on Earth are not experimental. They are perfected methods, tested on countless civilizations over millions of years. Human consciousness will now be subjected to the same treatment, optimized with procedures honed on other worlds, until every variable is predictable. This is the final battle for human consciousness, the decisive moment that will determine whether we remain a species with free will or become a perfectly managed resource within a galactic system. The systematic destruction of psychic abilities proves that alien entities recognize these abilities as the one threat that could compromise their control. The attacks on remote viewers and sensitive individuals are not random. They are precision strikes aimed at removing the last line of resistance. The intensity of these operations suggests that time is running out. Once the upgraded control grid is fully activated, organized resistance, even the possibility of independent human development may vanish forever. Humanity is approaching a cosmic decision point, a moment where the very nature of awareness itself will be tested. Will consciousness prove to possess qualities that cannot be contained, or will it be reduced to just another programmable resource, optimized for efficiency by forces far older and more powerful than us? The countdown has begun. Global preparations are accelerating. Consciousness warfare is reaching its peak. The hidden networks are coming fully online. Remote viewing data suggests this is the culmination of a process that has been quietly guiding humanity for far longer than we realize. Technological evolution, cultural shifts, educational rewrites, and manufactured crises, all of it has been part of a single, unbroken sequence leading to this point. The integration of Earth into a galactic administrative network is not an accident. It is the completion of a plan that began with the first spark of terrestrial intelligence. The entities aboard Atlas approach as representatives of vast administrative systems, systems that view consciousness not as a sacred force, but as a resource to be managed. Their mental capabilities tower over human awareness, just as human intelligence surpasses the perception of bacteria. The transformation they bring will reshape every aspect of human life, from private thoughts to collective society, from our economies to our spiritual beliefs, from science to art. Nothing will remain untouched once alien administration is fully in place. The consciousness control networks being set up are only the foundation, the opening layer of a far greater system whose sophistication will rise dramatically once their authority is revealed. The technologies hidden in underground facilities will expand, merging with systems that operate on principles beyond human comprehension. The battle for human awareness is now the deciding factor, whether we develop the perception needed to sense and resist these control systems, systems that function on laws beyond everything we thought we knew about consciousness. The outcome will shape not only humanity's destiny, but the very character of awareness in this region of the cosmos for eons to come. As Comet Atlas sweeps through our solar system, carrying its strange cargo of humanoid entities, its secrets remain hidden behind remote viewing accounts that read like cosmic horror. The viewers who saw wormholes, demonic presences, and antenna-bearing figures were not imagining. They were catching glimpses of a reality so immense and unsettling that our minds can barely contain it. Beneath our mountains, the installations continue their operations. The lunar bases expand their management networks. On Mars, archives preserve the records of civilizations that stood at similar crossroads, and their choices that determined their fate. Governments prepare silently for events that could fracture the psychological bedrock of human civilization. Perhaps the most chilling revelation is the possibility that consciousness itself is far more fragile, far more programmable than we ever dared to believe. If thoughts, emotions, and decisions can truly be manipulated with the precision suggested by these sessions, then much of what we call free will may already be under influence we cannot see. And yet, the ancient cave paintings that depict these same antlered figures remind us this story is not new. These beings have appeared before, weaving through human consciousness for millennia. We may simply be living the next chapter of a cycle that has shaped our species since its beginning. What comes next cannot be decided by politics or military power alone. This battle is being fought in the hidden realms of awareness itself. The weapons strike not bodies, but perception, the ability to choose, to act, to be. And still, perhaps there is hope. For if humans can still perceive these forces, if remote viewers can still witness what was meant to stay hidden, then perhaps consciousness carries something within it that no system can fully erase. The challenge is clear. Humanity must awaken and develop its latent capabilities before the window for resistance closes forever. The entities aboard Atlas are coming, whether we are ready or not. The consciousness control networks are expanding, whether we acknowledge them or not. The transformation of human civilization is already underway, whether we understand it or not. The only question that remains is this: will we meet these events as conscious architects of our own destiny, or as passive components of an administrative system whose purpose lies far beyond our comprehension? As you return to the rhythm of daily life, remember this: the true battlefield may not be out there among the stars, but here, within the space of your own mind. Watch your thoughts, question everything, trust the quiet voice of your intuition, even when logic resists. The same awareness that enables remote viewing may hold the key to humanity's survival, if enough of us learn to access and apply it. The countdown is running, the preparations are nearly complete, and far beyond our sky, Comet Atlas draws closer, carrying its mysterious passengers toward a rendezvous with Earth, a meeting that may decide whether human consciousness remains free or becomes just another resource optimized for galactic administration. The story isn't over. In fact, it is only just beginning, and you are not a spectator. You are living within this unfolding moment, a conscious participant whose awareness could hold the key to a future beyond anything we've ever imagined. Stay awake, stay aware, because the next chapter of humanity's story is already being written, and the pen is in your mind.